Martha, a beautiful 19-year-old with braided hair adorned with colorful braids, loved to try new things. One sunny afternoon, she decided to visit a new restaurant in town, Taste of Heaven. The restaurant was known for its special dishes that made everyone smile. As she entered, Martha was amazed. The place was lively, filled with laughter and chatter. The walls had beautiful African paintings, and the chairs were covered in bright patterns. She picked a small table in the corner and ordered the house special. When her food arrived, she couldn't believe her eyes. The food on her plate glowed faintly, a soft golden light streaming around it. Martha looked at it with curiosity. She could hear people around her side with happiness, and they ate their meals. She took a bite, and it was like magic in her mouth. A warm feeling spread through her, and she smiled without realizing it. But something about the glow made her wonder, what makes this food so special? Martha decided she needed answers. She would return to Taste of Heaven, but not alone. Martha's friend Tiku was a tall, cheerful young man who always believed in her wild ideas. When Martha told him about the glowing food, he laughed. "Are you sure you weren't dreaming?" he teased. "No, Tiku, I'm serious," she said. "Something is different about that food, and I need to find out what." That evening, the two stood outside the restaurant. The bright neon sign Taste of Heaven glowed warmly. "Are you ready?" Martha asked. "I don't know about this," Tiku said nervously, but he followed her inside. As they watched the other dinners, they noticed everyone had the same glowing smile and happy expressions. "Do you think they know the secret?" Tiku whispered. Martha shook her head. "Let's find out." In the restaurant's kitchen, Mr. Baku stirred the pot that glowed brighter than the sun. He was a middle-aged man with a sharp jawline and a kind but mysterious face. His apron, made of colorful kente fabric, fluttered as he worked. Martha and Tiku snuck closer, hiding behind a shelf. They watched as Mr. Baku added strange herbs to the pot. "That must be the secret," Martha whispered. Suddenly, Mr. Baku stopped and looked around. "Who's there?" he called. Martha and Tiku held their breath. "Maybe we should leave," Tiku said, tugging at her arm. But Martha wasn't ready to give up. "This isn't just food, Tiku," she said. "It's something magical." The next day, Martha and Tiku sat in the restaurant again. They watched a man with a grey beard eat his meal. He smiled at first, but soon his face became sad, as if remembering something painful. Martha leaned towards Tiku. "Why does he look sad if the food makes people happy?" she wondered. Tiku struggled. "Maybe the food brings out memories." Martha decided to talk to the man. "Excuse me, sir," she said. "Is everything okay?" The man sighed. "The food is wonderful, but it reminds me of home, of things I lost ago." Martha's curiosity grew. This wasn't just food, it was something deeper. That night, Martha and Tiku snuck back into the restaurant's kitchen. It was dark and quiet. They carried a long flashlight and crept carefully past the shelf of pots and jars. As they moved, they noticed glowing symbols on the walls. "What does this mean?" Tiku asked. "I don't know," Martha said, "but they feel ancient." Suddenly, Mr. Baku appeared. "You shouldn't be here," he shouted. Martha stood her ground. "What's in the pot? What's the secret of your food?" she demanded. Mr. Baku hesitated, then sighed. "You wouldn't understand," he said. But Martha was not giving up. Mr. Baku finally led them to a small room behind the kitchen. He opened a wooden box covered in glowing carvings. Inside were strange powders and herbs. "This," he said, "is where the magic comes from." Martha stared in disbelief. "Magic? Are you serious?" Mr. Baku nodded. "These spices had been passed down in my family for generations. They make people happy, but come with a curse." "What curse?" Tiku asked, his voice shaking. Mr. Baku looked away. "The more people eat, the more they forget their troubles and themselves." Mr. Baku led them down a staircase to a hidden cellar. The air was cold and a faint glow seeped through the cracks. At the center of the room was the wooden box. As they approached, the light grew brighter. Suddenly, a cloud of golden powder swelled out, forming a face. "It's alive," Tiku shouted. The face spoke in deep, echoing voice. "Who dares disturb my rest?" Martha held her lantern tightly. "We mean no harm," she said. But the cloud began to grow, filling the room with light and fear. Martha and Tiku knew they had to act. They consulted an elder in the market who gave them holy water and a rosary. "Be careful," the elder warned. "This powder is not easy to defeat." They returned to the cellar, determined to break the curse. As the golden cloud appeared again, Martha threw the holy water. The cloud shrinked and twisted in pain. Tiku knelt, praying loudly. The cloud began to shrink, but its glowing eyes burned brighter. "Keep going," Martha shouted. Finally, the golden light began to fade, leaving the room in silence. With the curse broken, Mr. Baku collapsed in tears. "I never wanted this," he said. "I only wanted to make people happy." Martha helped him to his feet. "Now you can start fresh," she said. Together, they reopened Taste of Heaven. The restaurant was now a place of joy with no magic, only delicious food made with love. Customers returned, smiling and laughing. Martha and Tiku sat by the window, enjoying a meal. "This is how it should be," Tiku said. Martha nodded, a real taste of heaven. One afternoon, Martha and Tiku sat under a big baobab tree, talking about everything that had happened. "We learned so much," Tiku said, "but the biggest lesson is that true happiness comes from within." Martha smiled, and sometimes we just need a little courage to find the truth. As they laughed and watched the children play, they felt grateful. Life in the town moved on, but the story of Taste of Heaven would always be remembered. And so, they lived happily, sharing their stories with anyone who would listen.